Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gopinath, Radha Gopinath, Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Rupadra. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Gopremanandi. Jai Vishnupada Paramanga Prabhupada Ashtotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charan Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnupada Paramanga Prabhupada Ashtotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananda Kori Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिका श्याम को राधा कुंगी वृंदावन की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगामाई की यमुनामाई की भक्ति देवी की श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसलेंडल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांस प्रसारण डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की Itai Gopremanandi. All glory to the Assembly of Hare Krishna. All glory to the Assembly of Hare Krishna. All glory to the Milabari Hare Krishna. All glory to Shri Guru, Shri Guru. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this morning Bhagavatam class. We're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 33, which is the last chapter in this canto. Text number 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 33, verse number 20. Hitva tad ipshipatamam api akhandavayoshitam Kinchichakaravadhanam Putra Vishleshanaturah Hitvata Ipshitatamam Api Akhandavaayoshitam Kinchichakaravadhanam Putra Vishleshanaturah Hitvata Dishvitatamam Api Akhandavaayoshitam Kinchichakaravadhanam Putra Vishleshanaturah. Thank you. Word for word translation. Hitva, having given up. Tat, that household. Ipsitatamam, most desirable. Api, even. Akhandavaayoshitam, by the wives of Lord Indra. Kinchit Chakaravadhanam, she wore a sorry look on her face. Putra Vishleshana, by separation from her son. Atura, afflicted. Translation. And purport by Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Chandravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Although her position was unique from all points of view, saintly Devahuti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied even by the ladies of the heavenly planets, gave up all such comforts. She was only sorry that her great son was separated from her. Purport. Devahuti was not at all sorry at giving up her material comforts, but she was very much aggrieved at the separation of her son. It may be questioned here that if Devahuti was not at all sorry to give up the material comforts of life, then why was she sorry about losing her son? Why was she so attached to her son? The answer is explained in the next verse. He was not an ordinary son. Her son was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can give up material attachment, therefore only when one has attachment for the Supreme Person, therefore only when one has attachment for the Supreme Person. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Param Dashtva Nivartate. Only when one actually has some taste for spiritual existence can he be reluctant to follow the materialistic way of life. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhubhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. I'll read the verse again. Canto 3, chapter 33, verse number 20. Although her position was unique from all points of view, saintly Devahuti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied even by the ladies of the heavenly planets, gave up all such comforts. She was only sorry that a great son was separated from her. So we're approaching this is the last chapter of the Bhagavatam. And as a background, as a context, Kapila Dev has just concluded his teachings and he has responded to Mother Devahuti. In fact, he responds to her in verse number 11. My dear mother, those who are actually transcendentalists certainly follow my instructions as I have given them to you. You may rest assured that if you traverse this path of self-realization perfectly, surely you shall be freed from fearful material contamination and shall ultimately reach me. Mother, persons who are not conversant with this method of devotion service certainly cannot get out of the cycle of birth and death. And then later on Maitreya, because this is a conversation happened between Maitreya and Vidura, he says that after instructing his mother, he took permission from her and left his home, his mission having been fulfilled. So Devahuti, as we see here in the next verse, or she actually laments for her son, because she's so attached to her son. In fact, in Laghu Bhagavatamrita it's described that Kapila Dev, he's not a Shaktivesh avatar, he's actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And earlier on too, she's attached to her son, who's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that attachment is actually endorsed, or that's actually beneficial for us. So Mother Devotee is not attached to the opulence. We see this in the lives of personalities that are in the Bhagavatam. Maharaj Ambarish in the 9th canto, we see that he was the emperor. He had ownership of all the 7 islands or 7 lands, as a whatever nomenclature we may refer to. So he was situated in all the opulence, but he was never attached to it. Even we see in the 1st canto, Maharaj Yudhishthir, ruler of this entire planet, not attached to it. And the answer that's given there is in the last paragraph, or the last lines of purport, Param Drishtva Nivartate. Only when one actually has some taste of spiritual existence can he be reluctant to follow the materialistic way of life. So we see in chapter 5 of the Gita, verse number 24, I'll read it out. One whose happiness is within, who's active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He's liberated in the Supreme and ultimately attains the Supreme. And then we also see in other places in Bhagavad Gita, one who's actually detached, for him pebbles and stone, there's no difference. So our goal is not renunciation. Srila Prabhupada always instructed his disciples to live in whatever situation that was given to them. Because a lot of times renunciation itself can be an obstacle, or if it comes in a way of us and Krishna. We see in the life of Sudama Brahmana in one of the commentaries, and in fact I think maybe some years ago, it's only Devan Swami, I think during one Sunday feast lecture, was mentioning this, that he was attached to being a Brahmana. That sense of renunciation was, I wouldn't say overpowering it, but he felt attached to that, so Krishna had to humble him in ways. Last week, Bhagavad Gita Semni Mataji and Sambha Prabhu were doing a home program, and they say that a lot of times being renounced or being, in Nectar of Instruction says Niyama Agraha, just following rules and regulations without actually knowing the purpose behind them. The purpose behind it is always remembering Krishna, never forgetting him. Those are the two principles on which we on which our Krishna consciousness is actually sustained. So Mataji was saying that there's a story somewhere, or there was this Brahmana who was very attached to chanting his Gayatris at exactly the perfect Sandhya. So, the morning Sandhya, the noon Sandhya, the evening Sandhya, never missed for 25 or 30 years chanting that perfect Sandhya. So after his noon Sandhya, he just was feeling very tired and he just dozed off. And then when it was time for the evening Sandhya, he was fast asleep. Maya Devi came and woke him up. Hey, wake up! It's time for you to chant your evening Sandhya. And he said, if you're Maya personified, or if you're Kali personified, why are you, isn't it in your benefit to let me sleep and miss my Sandhya? She said, no, because you have this pride of never missing your Sandhya. If you were to do it, then my job becomes easier to trap you. So the sense of pride that can also come from renunciation actually makes a heart more harder. Like Rupa Goswami, I've been fortunate enough to be reading this book called Mana Shiksha, which is Instructions to the Mind by Raghunath Das Goswami. And there are commentary by various of our contemporary saints, personalities. His own is Jayad Veda Swami, his own is Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, Sachinandan Swami, Urmila Maharaji, and so on and so forth. So he writes in that Rupa Goswami is obviously our, we are called Rupa Nugas, followed Rupa Goswami. And who can embody obviously the ideal of sampradaya for detachment is Raghunath Das Goswami. But she said for Rupa Goswami, renunciation was actually, our goal was not renunciation, but that was just a natural state of his heart. He was just, and we see Raghunath Das Goswami, how he was just surviving on half a cup of, or half a palmful of buttermilk every second day. That's because their source of nourishment is elsewhere. It's coming from the spiritual realm. It's not coming from the material realm. Obviously, we don't imitate, but this is what it actually is. And as we see, Srila Prabhupada was always, he never, for him, detachment was exemplified in so many different ways. In one instance, Srila Prabhupada said, first, Krishna tested me by taking everything from me, and then he tested me by giving everything, manifold. So, he was always attached to serving Krishna. And in fact, I think once, just recently, I heard a class by Dhanadeva Swami. He said that, you see Srila Prabhupada's detachment, he fought so hard for the Juhu property. Practically he spent the most time in Juhu of all of his travel. He would not leave, he would, wherever, I think they did a count and he spent something like, I don't know, I can't quote the exact number of days, but it was over like 500 days that actually he spent at Juhu. I mean, at the property or just somewhere around Juhu. And wherever he was in the world, he would always want telegrams to be sent to him, what's the status of the project, and then he was always fighting, the devotees, so Giriraj Swami has written a book called The Juhu Story, in which, Srila Prabhupada will be just guiding devotees wherever he was at. In fact, one place he said this, I'm not able to sleep because of what's happening at the Juhu property. But Maharaj was saying, Devamiri Maharaj was saying, look at Srila Prabhupada's detachment. He fought so hard, he practically moved all of his, whatever resources he had. And then what happened, just 5 months before the Jew temple was opening, he just leaves. He could have, obviously, Srila Prabhupada towards the end of his life, he was telling the disciples that I can, if you want me, if Krishna has left it to me, if I want, he's told me, if you want to stay, it's in your hands. But, as we see in Srila Prabhupada's life, he was completely surrendered to Krishna's will. Whatever service or whatever was Krishna's desire, he was one with that desire. So we see like that, and in so many instances, there are so many anecdotes that one can give. But we see the sense of detachment. In fact, today we're very fortunate, and it's a very auspicious day because it's the divine appearance day of Sri Radha Swami. Today is the Vyas Puja Mahotsav of Sri Radha Swami. So much can be said, and we'll be discussing a little about him in whatever time we have. But Maharaj also that embodiment of detachment. If one gets a chance, one should read his biography, which is the Journey Home. Maharaj later on also wrote the Journey Within, but Journey Home gives a preview of how he met Srila Prabhupada, all the struggles and all the challenges he went through up to the point that he met Srila Prabhupada, and how he was always determined. In fact, it's always that one whose intelligence is fixed is resolute in determination, but one who is not, it's actually many-branched. So we see that sheer focus from Maharaj and his life, where he never deviated from the goal. Not only then, but even now, we see that applied to his projects. And he's always detached. Maharaj is always never wants to take credit for anything. In fact, there's a website, if one would like, you can access. It's called It So Happened, and devotees are sharing their memories, their experiences with Maharaj. And it was a sweet pastime in there, in which Maharaj was actually invited to visit a place in Mumbai for evening prasad. And it happened to be during the monsoon season, and it rained so heavily that it happens quite often is that all these localities actually lose electricity or power. There's a power outage. So the devotees that Maharaj is going to visit were preparing all day, because as it's customary, especially in cultured come from a cultural civilization, those that actually know how to honor and respect the sadhu, to really host the sadhu, and also to look after whatever the needs are, and to receive a sadhu, so the Vaishnava etiquette. So they were preparing the whole day, and then it just happens to be when when devotees, Maharaj along with the servants were entering into that suburb, that there was a power outage. And then devotees would travel Maharaj like, oh Maharaj, there's a, what do we do? But they kept quiet because they didn't know what Maharaj was saying. So Maharaj enters their home, and the devotees, the host there, was so disheartened, because they put in all their efforts, and just to see that there's no power. And the devotee, the host, tell Maharaj, Maharaj, we are so sorry, we've just lost power. And Maharaj has said, I'm not attached to power. It can be obviously seen literally, but then the devotee that was narrating it, it's like that was Maharaj's heart. He was never attached to power, even though he's given, he's invested in communities, built communities, empowered people, projects, so on and so forth. But at his heart, he's always wanting to be, the servant, the servant. Like that, and then we'll discuss a little later too, like in whatever time we have. So when I was reading this verse, obviously we see, when we see personality in the Bhagavatam, we see them and we see us, and then we see, it's practically hopeless here. So it's not looking any bright. But when I read, or when we read, we see, what's stopping us from. Obviously, Srila Prabhupada said we should always follow in the footsteps of these personalities, not wanting to be like them, but wanting to be in the footsteps of these personalities, which means, because in one lecture Srila Prabhupada says, to even wanting to become Nanda Maharaj or Mother Yashoda, that's impersonal. That's Sahajya. So he kicks that out. Like we have to follow in the footsteps of personalities. So what stops us, right, from this? And Krishna, Arjuna is actually asking Krishna the same question in Bhagavad Gita, what impels one to do such things? And Krishna just clearly describes, it's lust only, Arjuna, that blinds one to self-realization. So this lust, described in stages, how this lust, how one leads to the other. So it's Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Matsarya. These are all the gang. This is the gang that's of enemy that have ganged up against us, and we have to fight against it. Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj, and in fact there's a verse in the Manashiksha that actually speaks about these enemies that are that have completely grabbed us by a neck. Let me just read it. I'll read the English. It is verse 5 from Manashiksha. While here on the revealed path of devotion, I have been attacked by the gang of my own lust, etc., who have bound my neck with the troublesome, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds. I am being killed. Cry out piteously like this to the devotees of Sri Krishna, the destroyer of Baka. O mind, they will save you from these enemies. So lust, obviously in this section there's a breakdown and an explanation of how each of these actually affect us. But there was a very interesting example that Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj gives, that humans, we as humans, or the human species, we have acts, because what gives rise to lust, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, is sankalpa. So karma, right? On one fine sunny day, everything's going very smoothly, but all of a sudden this karma just springs up from nowhere. This lust, this desire for something that we just think we're haunted by a ghost. And he said this comes from determination, sankalpa, that we may have made in the past, we may have maybe even from previous life. It just comes and just, that it all of a sudden, it just attacks us. And he said because humans have, for example, in other species, they only see things that, or they only analyze things or analyze circumstances that are meant for them. But as humans, we have access to things which we're not even meant to, or because we have a broader range of, you can say, stimuli that can come and affect us. So he was giving an example, a frog. A frog will never see a slow-moving object. If you go by a frog very slowly, it won't even observe you. But if something is very fast and instant, it'll actually observe it. Oh, it'll wake up and say, what's just missed? But for us as humans, anything can actually trigger that stimuli. That based on our vasanas, or those who actually do, study the Yoga Sutras, this terminology is very elaborately described. So what we're getting to here is that because there are a whole range of desires, emotions within us, which can, cause that lust to just further fructify and take many shapes and forms. Interestingly, there's a verse in the 7th canto, and Sangha Sanjayate Kama. So what do we actually associate with? That's who we become. There's a verse in the 7th canto, I wasn't able to pull it up while I was coming here, but I read it, and the speaker is Hiranyakashipu. And he says that a crystal, if I'm not mistaken, it takes on the light or whatever is around it. So similarly, whoever we associate with, that's who we become. That's Hiranyakashipu telling to Prahlad Maharaj. And the context that he's giving is that, because if you surround yourself with materialists, then you'll actually become like that. And Prahlad Maharaj is counter-arguing about association of devotees. So in this verse of the Manashiksha, the slayer of the Baka demon, so we know Baka demon is from Krishna's pastime, and it's a heron, a two-beaked heron, and Krishna enters and bifurcates these two. The deeper meaning behind this pastime is that Bakasura is actually a pretender. So a heron will actually be, to external vision, seen like a perfect yogi. Just with his eyes closed and just meditating on one leg. But the moment a frog leaps in front of it, it's going to capture it. So it's actually waiting for that opportunity for a frog to leap and get it. But on other times, it's just sitting there figuratively like a yogi. So we too are like that. And because we are work in progress. So that's the reason why we struggle with it. In fact, Srila Prabhupada in many instances says it's good to be an honest speaker on the streets than being a charlatan yogi, because that principle will always save us. That sincerity will always save us. So who will save us? In Manashiksha it is said, not Krishna, but the devotees will save you. So the Vaishnava police will actually save us. So we always should surround ourselves with sadhu sangha. This sadhu sangha will actually save us. So slayer of the Baka demon is called Baka Beat. So the devotees of Krishna are actually more merciful than Krishna himself. In fact, it is described in I think chapter 25, 325-25. I think that's the famous verse. Satam prasanga mamas virya samvido bhavan tehit karna rashayana kataha tad joshna dasura paravagatmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukrameshyati. In the association of pure devoted discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. So in the association of devotees, if done progressively to overcome our anarthas, and our goal is Shri Radha Gopinath and the Vaishnavas and our Guru Parampara and Srila Prabhupada, then we see lust disappear or gradually diminish. Kama, Krodha, Matsarya, these are actually qualities start, or these vices actually start diminishing. Because in the association of sadhus, we actually practice tolerance, humility, or sometimes we're forced to practice tolerance and humility, because that's what the medicine is meant to do. Here, Radha Vinod again on this website, there was a pastime in which he told the staff at Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Mumbai. So not the staff, the leaders. So they're obviously the main leaders who are the doctors, who actually helped put this project together, because getting funding, but they also, you can call them the board of directors or whatever, and then there's also the staff. So he told the managers, he told the people, the devotees who were actually running the incident, you should eat the same food as the staff and eat in the same place as the staff. So whatever your common area is for eating, you eat with them and you eat the same food. And you should also mop the floors. And and in that way, you will actually build integrity, and people who are your staff will actually, that's leadership. So these devotees who were actually relaying, they started following that instruction. They started sweeping the mops, and they started mopping the floor. And then as they were doing it, they said they felt like a scalpel just cutting through their ego. And then the next time they saw Maharaj, and Maharaj also, this is the suspense that's building up to it. When they told Maharaj, when they met him last, Maharaj, we are actually eating in the same restaurant or common or the canteen area, we eat the same food, and we're also mopping the floors. Maharaj said, who's cleaning the toilets? They thought, oh, that's what a sadhu was meant to do. Really cut through that layer of pride in us, because that's what's stopping us from getting closer and closer to Radha Gopinath. So that's what Sadhu Sangha is meant to do. So the Vaishnava police are here to help us. In fact, in one place, one pastor, Srila Prabhupada, one devotee had actually strayed away. Very nice devotee, and somehow they had some challenges and difficulties, and went away and stopped chanting and so on and so forth. And Srila Prabhupada didn't know about it, but then later on, when the news came out that Srila Prabhupada was visiting this place, this temple, whatever, this devotee came, and Srila Prabhupada just immediately said, "You are not chanting." And the devotee said, "Yeah, I'm not chanting." And the devotee was like, obviously there are many ways by which Srila Prabhupada could have known that, mystically or whatever, that he was not chanting. Prabhupada said, because you're not keeping the association of devotees. You're not associating with devotees, that's why. So again, this whole aspect of Sadhu Sangha actually comes into place. In fact, in Chaitanya Charitamrita we see, I don't remember who's actually saying, but what's the worst thing what could happen is the loss of associate devotee, but what's the best that can happen is the association devotee. So the association devotees, and that's what we see here, Madhadeva Huti. There were we see this in text 19, which Dharmashma read yesterday towards the end, that the ladies of the denizens Gandharva were singing about Karadama Muni's glorious household life. So they would actually speak the glories of Karadama Muni and also of Kapila Dev, which actually kept her in that association. And because of that association, if you practice it properly, and we have, if somehow or the other our intelligence is strong enough, determination strong enough, then we are able to get the higher taste. Or else over time we lose the taste. His Holiness Kadam Kana Maharaj was saying, devotees often lack or start losing taste in their spiritual life because they stopped reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada would always say, distributing my books will actually make devotees, and reading them will keep them as devotees. So both are actually needed, and because this is the month of the marathon, distribute books. At the same time, we create a culture and an environment which is built on following what's actually written on those books. Look, as I said earlier, Sadhu Sangha, or association of that sadhu, is what will actually help us gain that param drishva, come to the stage of param drishva nivartate. So, as today is the Prince of Radha Swami, personalities like him grace this planet, and really, especially if I speak for myself and many others here who may have not had the experience of seeing Srila Prabhupada, but then we see a representative of Srila Prabhupada, as they say, walk the talk, and giving us a sense of what it is to be attached to Srila Prabhupada, is that hope and that inspiration. Once, I think there was, and like I said, Maharaj is always not willing to take credit, and so whenever he gets it, he always offers it to Krishna, to Radha Gopinath. There's just rather at one time, I think this was this hospital opening. It's the devotee describing that this was a hospital opening, and the devotees had organized for Maharaj to come and cut the ribbon and so on and so forth. And because they felt it's obviously Bhaktivedanta Hospital is more, as devotees describe it, it's more of a tirtha, because they have Jagannath there, and then 8 times a day you go there, kirtans playing. So they had kirtans being amplified on different speakers there. And Maharaj walked in and he said, "What is this playing?" He said, Maharaj, these are kirtans. Maharaj said, "I know it's kirtan, but they were playing Maharaj's kirtans." So he felt he should stop this, because this hospital is an offering to Srila Prabhupada, so we should have Srila Prabhupada's kirtans playing. Again, being the mood of Das Sarvadas, just always offering whatever comes to Krishna's and to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. So with that note, we'll end here, because I'm running out of time. But again, today is the day to also ask for these personalities for their blessings, for their mercy, because they're very kind. As I said, devotees are more kinder than Krishna and more merciful than Krishna. So we ask such personalities for their mercy to give us the determination to somehow, if we get even a drop of the taste that they have, then that will make our spiritual life much more, on the lines of Param Drishva Nivartate. So I'll end here if anyone maybe has a question or comment. Yes, yes, Prabhu. Yes. Mm-hmm.
First one, can Devahutis attachment, not comparing this, but I'm just trying to understand, can Devahutis attachment to the Lordships be compared to the Rajat Gopagopas? And how are the mood of Karlam Mahamuni, even though he's actually attached, he actually took he adopted our Vardashana Dharma, and then he actually renunciated before. So how do we understand the different moods of true personalities in the same family who are extremely attached to the Lord?
Yeah, see, Kardama Muni gave Kapila, he gave Lord Kapila. So he, obviously for the Varnashram system, he left as soon as Kapila Dev appeared in the scene, he left. So in fact, if you see, in which verse is it? One of the earlier verses when he said he gave her all protection. Now this is, when is it being spoken? After he's already left. So he's given all protection, which after he's physically left, or he's gone to the forest, because he's given Kapila as that, and Lord Kapila is actually because Srila writes in the purport that the wife will feel the son takes the role of the father because when the father retires, then the son takes the role of the father. Now, in response to Mother Devahuti being attached to her son, and if that follows the example of the Vraja Gopis, see, each of them there are different moods or the different rasas. Shanta, Vatsalya, Tasya, Madhurya, so on and so forth. So each of them, the attachment to the Lord is actually in each of these moods. So now if Devahuti is in the same mood as the elderly gopis of Vrindavan, now Mother Devahuti is actually from, she's residing in Vaikuntha, and the sense of intimacy is different. So my understanding would be there will be a lot more elaboration on this in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, on what the elderly gopis and what the attachment is as compared to Mother Devahuti. So if maybe we can refer to that, and that will probably give a little more information on that. Thank you for the explanation. In one of the early chapters, I can't remember exactly. I can't remember, to be honest. There is a mention of it that he left. Is there a reference to it? Because he left because the son, he couldn't practice in presence of the son. But there is a mention somewhere in one of the when he's leaving. I'll have to read now. I'm actually wrong. Yeah.
It's mentioned. In Vedic times, do the other 5 higher planetary systems, Sataloka, Jaloka, Sataloka, do they used to be significantly?
Yeah, so Prabhupada always said prior to this Kali Yuga, you would see people from the higher planet would always visit this planet, and so on and so forth. In Kali Yuga, this interplanetary travel actually stops, but prior to Kali Yuga. But in fact, it happens even in this Kali Yuga, it happens in some places, but we don't see it because we don't have the eyes for it. If you go to, there are some temples, I don't know, years ago, there was a pilgrimage tour I was watching it online on Ahobilam. If you go to Ahobilam, they say at a certain time, in fact, it's actually accessible on YouTube, you can look it up. And at a certain time Ahobilam is one place, but at Ahobilam or maybe there's another Lord Narasimha temple, after 7 p.m., between 7 p.m. or between a certain time in the evening, like early hours of the morning, all the pujaris, they basically leave and they lock up the temple or whatever it is, and then they go further down, and then the morning when they come, they see that the arati paraphernalia, that it looked like the Lord was worshipped during the hours that no one was there, which means that the denizens from the higher planets are coming, or Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva or whoever other personalities are coming to worship the Lord. In fact, it is also said in Badrinath, in Badrikashram, for 6 months of the year that it's closed. There is the denizens from the higher planets coming and worshipping the Lord. Well, it's not accessible to humans because of the snowfall and so on and so forth. So it happens, but we can't see it because our sense of perception and sense of vision, because it's so conditioned that we can't actually see them. Yes, anything else? Okay. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nidhani Radha Swami Maharaj Vyas Puja Mahotsav ki, Ita Go Premanandi, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Namaskar.